Wars don't always spiral out of control on the battlefield. Sometimes they spiral when allies step back quietly, without announcement, without confrontation. And that's what makes this moment different, because nothing has visibly collapsed. No alliances have officially ended. No declarations have been made. But something has shifted in the Gulf where support once looked certain. Now it looks cautious, measured, distant, and that changes everything. Because in a conflict like this, power doesn't just come from military strength, it comes from alignment, and when that alignment weakens, control becomes harder to maintain. Right now, the United States still maintains a strong military presence across the Gulf. Naval forces patrol key waterways. Air assets operate from regional bases. Surveillance systems remain active. On the surface, nothing appears drastically different, but underneath, the dynamic has shifted. Gulf states are becoming more cautious. Public alignment is quieter. Operational cooperation is more measured, not withdrawn, but not as open as before. And that matters, because U.S. operations in the region don't function in isolation. They depend on access, on coordination, on regional support. And when that support becomes less certain, every operation becomes more complex. At the same time, these states are managing their own risks, balancing relationships, avoiding escalation, trying not to be drawn directly into a larger conflict, and that creates distance. Not visible distance, but strategic distance. And that changes how the entire system operates. Because now the U.S. is still present, still active, but operating in a more uncertain environment. At first, the shift is almost invisible. No announcements, no sudden policy changes, just subtle adjustments. A statement that sounds more neutral, a delay in coordination, a quieter response than expected. Individually, these moments don't seem significant, but together, they begin to change the environment. Because in the Gulf, alignment has always been a force multiplier. It allows faster coordination, clear communication, shared response. And when that alignment becomes less certain, everything slows down. This is where escalation begins, not through action, but through hesitation. Because hesitation changes timing, and timing is everything. A request for coordination takes longer. A decision is delayed. A response is more cautious, and that creates gaps, small at first, but growing. Then comes the operational impact. U.S. forces continue their missions, patrols, surveillance, presence. But now, each operation requires more calculation, more confirmation, more awareness of limitations, because the environment is no longer fully aligned, and that reduces flexibility. Then comes the next layer, perception. Because in a region like this, perception matters as much as reality. Iran observes the shift, not through direct signals, but through patterns, through behavior, through what is not happening. And that creates opportunity, not immediate, but gradual, because less visible alignment means less predictable response, and less predictable response creates space. Space to operate, space to apply pressure, space to test limits. But this is where things escalate further, because as one side senses opportunity, the other senses pressure. The United States begins to adjust more independent operations, more direct control, less reliance on coordination, and that changes the structure. Because now the system becomes more centralized, but also more exposed, because without strong regional alignment, support becomes less certain and uncertainty increases risk. Then comes the critical shift. Decision-making changes, not in intent, but in process. Because now decisions must account for more variables, more unknowns, more potential limitations, and that slows response, but slowing response in a high-pressure environment creates vulnerability, and vulnerability invites pressure. Then comes the cycle, caution from one side, opportunity from the other, adjustment, counter-adjustment, and each cycle increases complexity. Because now the environment is not just military, it's political, diplomatic, strategic, all overlapping. Then comes the realization there is no clear path forward because escalation cannot be fully controlled. But de-escalation is also uncertain because without strong alignment, there is no single direction, only multiple positions, and that fragments the system. But this is where the most important shift happens. Control becomes diluted, not lost, but spread across too many variables. And when control is diluted, outcomes become harder to predict because no single actor fully defines the situation anymore. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because now the conflict is not just about actions, it's about alignment. And alignment is no longer stable. What looks like distance is actually strategy. Gulf states are not simply stepping back, they are recalculating. Because their position in this conflict is different, they are not operating from distance. They are inside the region, inside the risk, and that changes their priorities. For them, stability is not optional, it is essential, because escalation does not stay contained. It spreads across borders, across economies, across infrastructure. So their strategy becomes one of balance, maintaining relationships, avoiding direct involvement, reducing exposure. And that means limiting alignment, not ending it, but controlling it. At the same time, the United States operates under a different framework, projection of power, deterrence, strategic positioning. But that model depends on cooperation, on shared access, on coordinated response. And when that cooperation becomes less certain, the strategy must adjust. But adjustment takes time, and time creates gaps. This creates a strategic mismatch, one side reducing exposure, the other maintaining pressure, and both trying to avoid escalation, but operating in different ways. And that makes coordination harder, because now, even without direct conflict, the system is under strain. From here, the situation becomes more uncertain, because without strong alignment, there is no clear direction. One possible outcome is quiet stabilization. Gulf states maintain distance. The United States adapts its operations. Tension remains but controlled. This is the most stable path, but it depends on restraint, and restraint is not guaranteed. Another scenario is prolonged stalemate, no major escalation, no clear resolution, just continuous pressure. Operations continue, tension persists, and the situation remains unresolved. Then there's the more dangerous path, gradual escalation, small events, repeated pressure. No single moment triggers conflict, but over time, the situation intensifies because without alignment, there is no unified response, and without unified response, control weakens, and beyond that, there is expansion, new actors, new pressures, new fronts, because instability creates opportunity, and opportunity attracts involvement. Right now, all of these paths remain open, but one thing is clear: the system is no longer stable. Nothing collapsed, nothing officially changed, and yet, everything feels different, because in conflicts like this, control isn't lost all at once. It fades slowly through distance, through hesitation, through silence, and by the time it's noticed, the system is already different, because power alone isn't enough. It never was. It depends on alignment, on cooperation, on shared direction. And when that begins to shift, the outcome becomes harder to control, because the next phase of this conflict won't be decided by strength alone. It will be decided by who still stands together and who doesn't.